Well, I don't know about you, but it seems like most people are continuing to adjust and adapt to technology. And I know that I am. It's an ongoing drama. But I have a little bit of a funny here that I'd like to share around that. A woman writes, "Dear tech support, last year I upgraded from boyfriend 5.0 to husband 101 and noticed a distinct slowdown in overall system performance, particularly in the flower and jewelry applications, which operated flawlessly under boyfriend 5.0. In addition, husband 1.0 uninstalled many other valuable programs, such as Romance 9.5 and Personal Attention 6.5, and then installed undesirable programs such as NFL 5.0, NBA 3.0, and Golf Clubs 4.1. Conversation 8.0 no longer runs, and House Cleaning 2.6 simply crashes the system. I've tried running Nagging 5.3 to fix these problems, but to no avail. Signed, Desperate." Dear Desperate, keep in mind, Boyfriend 5.0 is an entertainment package, while Husband 1.0 is an operating system. Please enter the command !HTTP : I thought you loved me, and try to download Tears 6.2, and don't forget to install Guilt 3.0 update. If that application works as designed, Husband 1.0 should then automatically run the applications Jewelry 2.0 and Flowers 3.5. But remember, overuse of the above application can cause Husband 1.0 to default to Grumpy Silence 2.5. Happy Hour 7.0 and Beer 6.1 is a very bad program that will download the Snoring Loudly beta. Whatever you do, do not install Mother-in-Law 1.0. It runs a virus in the background that will eventually seize control of all your system resources. Also, do not attempt to reinstall Boyfriend 5.0. These are unsupported applications and will crash Husband 1.0. In summary, Husband 1.0 is a great program, but it does have limited memory and cannot learn new applications quickly. You might consider buying additional software to improve memory and performance. We recommend Food 3.0 and Hot Lingerie 7.7. I thought that was pretty funny. I realize that humor is so vital in terms of our growth process, and I was thinking about this just this past week, that ministry is really a privilege. It's a privilege to walk with people as they change their lives, and it's not just about adapting and adjusting to change, it's about transformation. And I was intrigued by the word transformation, which seems to be such a common word within our spiritual focus. But the word trans, T-R-A-N-S, has some interesting descriptions or definitions around it. It means to go across or beyond, to change thoroughly from limitation to good in our path, to move from limitation to good. It's a very dynamic process that we are all engaged in, and at the same time it takes great care. And we can't push the river, so to speak, of transformation. But we can get into the flow of it. Because in unity teachings, we hold that there is a divine idea for each one of us. That is one of freedom versus bondage. And how that self-knowing, that felt knowing comes to us, comes in many different ways. Sometimes it comes through direct experience in outer life, and sometimes it comes through dreams. And I wanted to share with you a dream that I had about 8 years ago. That was a lucid dream. And I define lucid dreams as something other than the psychological, emotional processing that is what the brain mind does. Lucid dreaming is something where you know you're there. And you know that what you're dreaming is an actual experience. And I was dreaming, in this dream, I was driving a Plymouth Fury, about a 1967 Plymouth Fury. It was white in color, and I was driving along a levee of a river. And the river was like Niagara Falls turned horizontal on steroids. It was just the biggest whitewater river I have ever seen in my life. And my car careened down the levee and went right into the river. And I thought I was a goner. I really felt I was going to drown and be crushed by the waves. But in the dream, then there was 2 small children in the back seat. And they looked to be not only children, but somewhat compromised or disabled within their functioning. They weren't like highly intellectual children, but they were very, very aware. And in the hands of the male child, there was a male and female child, the male child had the steering wheel in his hands. And I was in the front seat and they were in the back, and they said, "Don't worry, we'll get you where you need to go." And so they just drove across this river through the mountainous waves, got me over to the other side, and I got out of the car and I was just amazed. And then I woke up, and I recognized that dream, the symbology of the dream, was that I really can't get where I need to go through my intellect. I have to become like a small child, innocent and trusting and fully aware that there is a process of unfoldment that is taking place. And it was a breakthrough dream. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of the time there is this process of trying to figure things out in terms of getting across some amazingly challenging experience. So we can't push the river. I'm honored to be in the position that I am in ministry. I listen to a lot of people's journeys, and a lot of people's journeys are filled with tremendous challenges, but they have great faith, and we work together in faith for them to remember who they are. And sometimes the outcomes that transpire with people's lives seem like miracles. But I have to remind myself that the people are the miracle. that which seems to be miraculous, is a result of consciousness, of their willingness to allow their lives to be changed. That oftentimes they aren't in a place of figuring it out, but they're simply in a place of coming to a point in their lives where they're saying, okay, I surrender to an awareness to get me from this point over here, and I don't know exactly how it's all going to happen, but genuinely I trust. And sometimes the struggle is supposed to happen. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I feel like I'm struggling, that there's something wrong, that I could do better in this way or that. But truth be told, the struggle is part of what might be called an alchemy, an alchemical process that is the result of greater and greater light and intelligence of soul and of spirit working within the dynamics of the body consciousness and the personality. And we struggle with that. Just this last week, my friend Scott Smith was here, who spoke last Sunday, and some of you experienced during workshops and so forth. And we had quite a little time together of doing some very dynamic spiritual work together. He works a great deal with energy and light and truth and what he calls Shakti, which is a Sanskrit word for divine energy. And all last week there was a feeling of intense transformation, almost like riding the waves of going through a great experience of change. And yet coming out the other side of it, always coming out the other side of it, much like going across a raging river and coming up on the other side, feeling safe, knowing that everything is going to be okay, and moving forward. And always with greater self-awareness about source, about one's own being. And sometimes we just are hanging out within the unknown. There was a unity minister named Jack Boland back in the 80s and 90s, and I knew someone very close to me in the Church of Today in Warren, Michigan. And she was in the line with greeting Jack Boland after service, and he was holding somebody's hands, and someone was describing a struggle that they were going through. And he simply said, I see it and I hold it for you until you can believe it for yourself. And that's really what this work is all about. The privilege that I have, that the chaplains have, that anybody that's involved in loving people in this center is holding space, holding a vision for really the diamond that we are, the diamond self, even if it's a diamond in the rough, buried in the mud of seeming insurmountable challenges. And I was thinking about, how does God see us? How does God see us? You know, we're always working with our concept of God from our side of things, thinking that, and it's really an important piece for each one of us to continue to examine our concept of God. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity Movement, said that our concept of God is the single most important factor in our lives. For at any given moment, it is determining our very next experience in the outer. That's really quite significant. Our concept of God. And as we allow more light, more presence to ground in us and earth and express through us, isn't it true that over your lifetime, perhaps, your concept of God has changed, has morphed into a more expansive concept? But what is God's idea or vision about us? And that if we, chaplains and so forth, can hold a vision for each other as a diamond that hasn't been quite polished enough or faceted enough, and that the spiritual path really is that process. That we are all diamonds in the mind of God. And that within the mind of God we are already whole and complete, but that we are on the earth to experience, to be polished, to be faceted, to allow that inner light to shine through us. But it's really important to keep a sense of humor about it. So I have another joke. I told this about 10 months ago. I hope you don't bear with me. I think it's kind of funny. A child asked his father, "How were people born?" So his father said, "Adam and Eve made babies. Then their babies became adults and made babies," and so on. And the child went to the mother, asked her the same question, and she told him, "We were monkeys, and then we evolved to become like we are now." The child ran back to his father and said, "You lied to me." His father replied, "No, your mother was talking about her side of the family." So as we evolve and as we change, there is this process of refinement that is going on. And I don't mean refinement in terms of social graces and politeness. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about alignment. Alignment with the frequencies of the higher self, the true self, the enduring self that moves in and through experience and continues on after our life here and before our life here. And sometimes it gets a little bit dicey. I remember in my early 20s, I want to share with you another dream that I had. I was at a party in the dream. It was a lucid dream. I was at a party in the backyard of some people. I don't know who they were, but there were two very interesting people there. Bob Hope and Grace Jones, who is an African American lady who is very stylish and beautiful entertainer. And I'm like, why am I having a dream of Bob Hope and Grace Jones? And then I woke up and I thought to myself, think of their names. Hope and Grace. And that my soul was trying to tell me, was telling me, that within the dynamic activity of this whole process of you and I going from being a diamond in the rough to a beautiful faceted gem, refracting great light. There is a process. And that is how the divine holds us within divine mind. We are not sinners. We have just made that up. We have never been separate from God for a single moment. Only in our mind have we made up that story. That all along the course of our unfoldment, there is always hope. There is always grace. There is always truth in your life. And no matter where you are in your life experience right now, you are perceived and held in truth by God, by Spirit, divine source, whatever words you want to use, by that source as whole and complete. I came across something with Bob Hope. He was asked at the end of his life, 100 years old, asked by his wife, "Bob, where would you like to be buried?" And he just looked at her and he said, "Surprise me." He really wasn't all that attached to that. But he had a sense of the ongoingness of life, and so did Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin stated when he was asked by a priest, "Do you want God to have mercy on your soul?" He replied, "Why not? It belongs to him." So he had an awareness already of his own ongoingness. And it is an ongoing exploration of revealing and knowing that we belong to God. We always have, we always will. And it reminds me of another little story about Steve Jobs. You may have already heard this. On his last moments on earth, his wife, Laureen, was sitting right by him, and he had a moment where he just opened his eyes and he said, "Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow." And within another moment or two, he let go and he made his transition. Moving from one place to another. What was he perceiving that he didn't perceive before through his senses? He was perceiving the actual relationship that he has with his own being and with his own God. And oftentimes we experience some rust around our own lives because of the sense of holding on. I know that I do. I don't know about you, but holding on to known things, and it feels like the body can rust almost or become stagnant. All the while we are beheld by life as a diamond. And all of our studies and everything that we're engaged in with our spiritual life, it is really all about uncovering that great truth. Emily Cady, who wrote Lessons in Truth, a classic Unity publication, she wrote, "There should not be a running to and fro, making human efforts to aid the divine, but a calm and restful unwavering trust in all wisdom and all power within one as being able to accomplish the thing desired. Charles Fillmore also wrote in Talks on Truth, he said, "Whoever testifies in favor of truth, though he or she be far removed from its brightness, is its friend, and is making straight the way for its full blaze into consciousness." And I can tell you that there have been many times on Sunday mornings in the last 17 years where I have felt far away from the truth. But one thing that I can say is that I have always the strength and the conviction to testify for it. To hold space within myself, regardless of my doubts and fears and whatever else, to reach inside and have that hope and that grace to testify for truth. And you have it too. No matter where you're at in your life right now, no matter where you're at in your personal struggles, you have that ability to testify for truth. It is there in you because you are a spiritual being. You are a diamond in God. You always have been, and you always will be. And the core of any healing on any level is to remember the actual design of who we are. My inner voice at times has simply said to me, stay the course. Stay the course. Don't give up. Don't allow yourself to fall into the illusion of separation. I wrote in my notes here, it's all about identification. What are we identifying with? Yesterday morning I was going for a long walk and I started to identify with the actual nature of who I am. My whole body lit up. Remember who you are all the time, 24/7, and you will live a life of great fulfillment. Forget who you are, and you will be challenged. It really comes down to that. Bondage or freedom. So I have a couple of affirmations that I would like us to say together if you're willing. Because affirmations are one of the tools of keeping our identity clear as part of God. So I'll state them once, and then I invite you to say them with me. I am my eternal consciousness. Together? I am my eternal consciousness. I am as God created me. Together? I am as God created me. I am whole. I'm whole. Do you guys mean this? You sure? I am my eternal consciousness. I used to say this until you feel it. Not feeling uncomfortable because you're saying something like this out in church. Let that go. That's just the mind stuff. Say it like your life depends on it. Like how Marcus gets up and sings. He sings like his life depends on it because it's so beautiful. I am my immortal consciousness. Do you know what that means? Oh, there's the doubt. Why am I saying this? You have your personality, you have your brain-mind thinking that goes on incessantly. When I say, I am my immortal consciousness, I'm saying that I am that which lives eternally. And through saying that, I align myself with the frequency of the divine being that I am. So you say that within the context of any fear, shame, doubt, any lower frequency, separate frequency, then you realign yourself with the actual experience. I am my immortal consciousness. Together? I am my immortal consciousness. That's better. And here's one that we said 2 weeks ago. God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
You feel that energy moving in your body when you say that? Yay, God. And the last one is something that is a great truth. Ami yot ami. Ami yot ami. Ami yot ami. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. Let's say that together 3 times. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. So this is about awakening the sleeping giant within you. The sleeping giant within you. So there is a divine pattern within each one of us. It is the diamond self. And so this week, I invite you to give your attention to that I am consciousness. It is truly who it is that you are. And through that identification, you are free. It is your actual birthright. It is your divine inheritance for the rest of eternity. How cool is that? Amen.